Hi everybody.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing. Hi everyone.
Hi Wendy, just starting it.
That's all right. I just want to say hello and welcome everybody to the session. We're very privileged today to have Paolo, who's here, and he works at the University of Sussex, and as you can see, he's doing a doctorate there as well. And tonight will be, today, it's tonight here, we will be listening to what he's been doing with his doctorate. And over to you, Paolo. I'll just keep myself quiet now. Sorry about that.
Thanks Wendy. Yeah, hi guys, hi everybody. I'm Paolo Oprandi. I work at the University of Sussex, but I've been doing a part-time doctorate. Coming to the end, submitted last Friday, so I'm a very happy person. Can everyone hear me okay, first of all? Does someone want to tell me if that, yeah, good, great, yeah, brilliant, and I'm not echoey. I was a bit worried about that. Okay, I'm gonna press on. I think you can hear me. Yay, finished. Going away, after this presentation, I'm going away on holiday for my 40th birthday as well. Hey! Not yet, anyway, I need my Viva. Okay, so we have, how many people here? Well, including Wendy, we have about 8 people. And I'd like to know, could you let me know if you are can you put your hands up in this presentation? Is there kind of like a signalling system? And if so, can you tell me if you're a teacher? No? Okay, write in the, how many of you are teachers? Tell me in the chat if you're a teacher. Wendy's a teacher. Anyone else a teacher? Okay, Carrie was a teacher. Okay. We have one teacher. A trainer. Okay, trainer, yeah. I can't even count how many there are. So if we include Bass, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think four teachers here. This is for my records. 4 developers. How many developers? I'm a developer. Anyone else a developer? Bass, you're a developer. Jen, are you a developer? Okay. Jen, would you put yourself in the developer category? Maybe not. I'm going to put 2 developers. Content providers. Any content providers there? Okay, well the rest of you must be something else. Numbers are dropping. Okay. Have you seen my video presentation on my blog? How many of you have already seen it? Oh, sorry, Anne. Admin and constructor. Okay. No, Carrie, you haven't seen my video. So 1 no. Not yet. Jens has joined us. No. Oh, no. Okay, I've got lots of slides to get through then. The one, Bass, it's the one about the 3 case studies that I did for my doctorate. Have you seen that? Okay, a lot of you haven't. So, well, I wanted, that's 5. And there are, okay, well I will get onto that. I'll be asked, I'll make it interactive so it's a little bit interesting as well. As you can see, I've got 69 slides here. So I had this question when I started my, so what is research for? Can anyone type in what they think research is for? So when I started my doctorate, what can we get out of research? Oh, facts. Cool. Facts. You're a scientist, aren't you, Baz? Anyone else? Information. Cool. I won't try and write that again. Okay. Yeah, when I started, I did an undergraduate in chemistry. I've also done a master's in business before I came on to doing education. So I've been in quite a few disciplinary fields. But when I started my research, I guess I wanted to create a general rule or principle that was going to be my claim to knowledge as a result of the work I was doing. But as I went through in the first couple of years, I decided that sort of proving something wasn't as interesting to me as learning something, because I had an opportunity to go out there, talk to a lot of teachers and also the students who were researching, and to learn really what their experiences were. I really like this quote. It says, formal generalization is overvalued as a source of scientific development, whereas the force of example is underestimated. So how do you learn something from research? I won't go, I think I'll just press on. I was going to ask you that question. Have a think about it. How do you learn something from research? Oh, okay, Carrie. Bye-bye. You can watch the video that's going to be recorded. And if you were going to do some research, what would you like to know? Can I have some answers to that? That'd be interesting. Cheryl, Anna, Bas, was there anything that you'd like to know from some research? If you had 3 years set aside to learn anything you wanted to, what do you think you'd try and find out? Probably about in the field of education. Further research, okay. Cool, that's where I started off, Cheryl. Dog behaviour, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that when I started my PhD? I don't know if I'd been in the School of Education, that's all. Has anyone else got any ideas? Learning itself, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to know as well. Yeah, certainly once I got into it. I mean, I guess because of because I'm the technical manager of the VLE, the Moodle, at my institution, Sussex University. I was. Oh, okay. I've got some more ideas. Ben, I think someone was saying something. I had quite a sort of general question. How does Moodle affect university students' approaches to learning? So what I did was I went out and I did some research. At first I was hello Ben, I've seen you. Welcome. Yeah, at first I was interested, I tried to use questionnaires. I wanted to, as I said, I kind of wanted to make a general principle. I wanted to know how many people were using technology and what was their experiences and was it helping their learning and that kind of thing. And I wanted people to write on a questionnaire about what they found useful and what they found difficult. And I piloted a couple of questionnaires and I did an actual questionnaire, and I found that it wasn't as interesting as I'd hoped. So I changed my research methods and I started looking at observation, document analysis, interviews, focus groups, kind of more qualitative stuff, and that fitted with my desire to learn something new rather than to prove something. And I used all four of those and it sort of triangulated the data to to learn something. My semi-structured interviews, they were very different from the interviews I gave in my business masters, where I was trying to be as anonymous as possible. I was having conversations with people and building knowledge between us, because I was going to have to go back and interpret the data. So I really needed to make sure that I'd understood what they were saying. So I like this idea of Cavale said I was a traveller rather than a miner inside people's heads. We were kind of on a journey together, exploring what they were doing and the meanings. In my documentary analysis, I was trying to look at the underlying messages. So whether each course had a handbook, and some was more of a contract, which said, as a teacher, I'm going to do this for you. Oh, I've got a question there. Ethno-methodological approach. Got to be careful how you say that. I would say I was, yeah. I say my epistemology was, well, I'm a realist, I would say. But yeah, I'm trying. That's about it. Ethnographic research is really interesting to me. That's what I'm trying to do. And so with the document analysis, yeah, some was more of a contract, giving more responsibilities over to the students, and others were more of a diktat. They were more telling the students exactly the way it was going to be. It was sort of fear-based. If they felt as if the students had to, it was kind of the tutor telling the students that if they didn't do certain things, they wouldn't pass. There was a different underlying message between some of the documents that the students were getting. And I did a lot of online observation, the way they were interacting on forums, how they're engaging with the workshop activity, the quiz, and things like that. And I did a little bit of face-to-face, and in fact, the way my research went, more face-to-face might have been beneficial. Easier to say ethnographic. Yeah, so I basically went out and did 3 case studies with 3 different courses in different parts of the university, different disciplines, and I collected this data through case study, and I took a systems thinking approach. A lot of the work that's been done by people like John Biggs, an Australian educationalist, Keith Chigwell and Michael Prosser and stuff, they take more of a phenomenographic approach to their research, which was talking to students and understanding their experiences, talking to tutors and understanding their experiences. But there wasn't as much, there wasn't the criticism of their research, if there's any, is that there wasn't much about the interaction. I wanted to take a systems thinking approach, which was about the whole environment, including the technology that they were using, the classroom environment, the effect of that, the disciplinary nature, influences on the teaching and learning that was going on. And I wanted to look at the structures that were set up, as well as the agency that the tutors had employed and the students were employing in their learning. And I used an analytical framework called cultural historic activity theory. I put system there, I meant theory, by someone called Engerstrom, who had based his ideas on Vygotsky. I guess most of you probably familiar with Vygotsky. Do most of you, is that right? Are you familiar with Vygotsky? Is anyone not? Anyway, don't worry, I don't need to know that. But I don't know if many of you know cultural historic activities theory. Quickly then, this is an activity system. It's a description of an activity. Brilliant, yes. Use the resources available, Bas. You're resourceful, you're going to get top marks. This is kind of a very simple activity system, where we have an identity, they are focusing on an object, they've got an objective in mind, and and then as a result of their endeavour, there's an outcome. It's often mediated by a community. And I'm going to use a very simple case study to explain this. If the identity was a baby and he was trying to eat some food, then his object would be to eat the food. The community would be the parents who were helping the baby eat the food, and the outcome would be a satiated and full baby. But activity system goes a bit further. It talks about tools, rules, and division of labour. So perhaps the tool in the baby activity system, or the baby eating activity system, the tool is perhaps a spoon. The rules is that they need to use it holding one end rather than the other, and the division of labour is the parents are going to make the food and the baby is going to try and eat it with the spoon with some help. So when I was looking at a course activity system, the identity or identities were the students. The tools were the teaching method or the assessment method, which might be used for teaching. So it could be multiple choice questions, and the object would be what the teaching method was trying to do. And then the outcome. So, for example, with multiple choice questions, it might be to remember facts, like my research might be trying to get out, understand facts or get out facts. But was the outcome was that they retained the facts and were able to use them usefully in their lives. But we're also looking at that about the influence of rules, community, and division of labour within that activity system. So let me go on and talk a little bit more. By doing this systems approach to my research, I found that my research question wasn't as interesting as I thought originally. Technology use was kind of insignificant compared to other effects on learning, and it was, of course, what they were trying to do with the technology that was important. A common mantra. It was the implementation of formative assessments that was the main influence on students' approaches to learning. Oh, that's the same. Can anyone provide a description of formative assessment for me? Don't look at Wikipedia, Bass, that would be cheating. You can do, actually. Or I can provide it if you prefer. You still with me? Hopefully you're thinking. It's kind of what it says on the cover, I think. Oh no. Sorry. She's only-ish. Okay, yeah. So formative assessment is assessment for learning. So it happens when a teacher has a conversation with a student, they assess where they're at and what it would be useful to tell the student. So that's kind of an informal teaching situation, and they're assessing the student. There's other examples of that, but there also can be formal assessment tasks, such as a midterm essay where they're going to get feedback. So the tutor's going to assess the essay, and then they're going to give feedback to the students in order for them to improve. So it's like a formative assessment. Sometimes they're summative, contribute to the final grades of the students. So sometimes lost my track there. So sometimes they're summative, but the whole point of them usually is that the overall aim is to have a formative effect on the students. So they normally use summative element to actually encourage them to do it, because otherwise students have a habit of not actually getting around to doing the assessment task. Okay, so this was what my research questions ended up being. How are formative assessments being practiced at a UK research intensive university? and how do disciplinary influences affect the implementation of formative assessments? Okay, I hope this isn't a personal question. How many of you... Oh, here we go. Ben has something for me. Okay, Ben. Yes, I did. I think that's very important. And I will get onto it a little bit. I have a lot of. I'm going to introduce you to the personas. I made some personas for my research that will go over and talk about and sort of explain what I saw. It's kind of the data, and then it's my making. It's a way of me to explain the data, and then I can talk about my conclusions. Oh, many like me, Ben. You're like me. I've done too many. Oh, it's another master's than the one I mentioned as well. Were you mainly in? So my next question is: did you graduate? Oh, I've got this is weird. Yeah. Oh, in what? This a couple. Okay. Cool. So arts. Wendy was in the arts. Agriculture. Cool. That must. Okay. Nice one. So that kind of sits in the sciences, I suppose. Applied sciences. Okay, yeah, I mean, and here's my other question. What did you get from your studies? Facts and methods that have been useful? How many had got facts and methods that have been useful from their degree? Hey, have they been useful though, Bass? In your garden? Maybe they will be when you get the allotment. I've been in chemistry, I've been in business, and I've been actually in media, and now I've been in education. So, so what did you get out of it, Ben? How about you, Wendy? In your arts? You still with me? Okay, I'm going to press on because no one's talking. Don't know why. Hopefully, I've not lost my internet connection or something. Oh, you are still there. Good. Bass is still there. Ben, are you still there? Okay, I'm going to carry on. Here are my research findings. Pictures. We like pictures. Here's my okay. I'm going to talk now about the data that I got out and what I've done. Yay, Lego personas. So the tutors that I'm going to talk about, they're anonymized real people, and the students are composites of this composite personas that I've created as a result of the focus group and interviews that I did with them. So not many of you seen this, have you? So basically all the tutors had an overall goal. Oh, okay. I hope I'm loud enough. I'll move a bit closer, see if I can get a bit louder. Anyway, okay, thanks for that, Bass. Yeah, the tutor said to develop the student's analytical capacity, criticality, resourcefulness, and inquisitiveness. Oh, Wendy, I had a question for you as well. You're not eating your dinner, are you? Okay. So this is my first case study. Oh, yeah, they're young. Mine are a bit older now. They're 11 and 9, so over the worst bit. Case study 1. I actually used, what did I use? Evernote. It was a bit of a challenge. Something like Envavo might have been a better option. I wanted to use a sort of a new media tool. EndNote ended up being a bit of a nightmare to join up and tag all the quotes and put them together and make sense of it all. Yeah, so I didn't use Envavo, no, but we do have it at the university. Here's this is the first persona I created from one of the case studies, a Doctor Traditional Science tutor who is influenced by his own educational experiences, the disciplinary expectations, and departmental expectations, as well as the administrative support available to him. He had a dominance of lectures in his teaching method. He had 2 procedural laboratory tasks. He had weekly multiple choice questions using Moodle, and a couple of written reports, one of which was, or perhaps both, were handed in by the assignment tool. The written reports were quite procedural and dry. Well, it might be, but because it's anonymised, I can't say, Bash. So his assumptions were knowledge is reproducing facts, that the students will learn by listening to him, doing the reading, and responding to the short answer questions that he was giving through the VLE. And they would improve by reading the feedback. But that knowledge would mainly come from the tutors and books, but not from peers. There was no pedagogic value necessarily in the students talking to each other, so there was not much time dedicated to that. There was actually there were some tutorials, but they were because the students had so much to do, they were on the periphery of their interests or focus. And I talked to 3 students, and I made this persona, Miss Dependent Student. She had been influenced by the masses of facts that were being introduced to through the lectures, the limited formal teaching space for discussion, lots of practice she was getting at procedural writing and laboratory tasks, and the lots of practice she was getting at responding to short answer questions. And she said things like, the teacher will tell me what I need to know. I will always need feedback to tell me how good I am. Online quizzes make me paranoid. Sorry, I'm reading it. Yeah, this the stress stops me from learning. So do you recognise these personas? Miss Dependent Student and Doctor Traditional Science Tutor. Hey, Bass does. I think I do, and in myself, to be honest, in my chemistry degree. Hey, good Wendy. Oh, Ben doesn't. Good, thanks, Cheryl. Cheryl does. I think the activity system might be a little bit heavy to go through, but basically some of my conclusions were derived by putting the data or analysing it through an activity system. With regards, so for the multiple choice questions really had the objective of getting the students to learn quite a lot of facts, They weren't expected to collaborate. There wasn't much community as a result. And there was a kind of division of, there was roles that the tutor holds the knowledge and the student must learn them. There wasn't many reflective tasks. They also didn't actually have to be that resourceful because a lot of the information was on the web, which the tutor pointed out that she questioned whether it was actually useful. And so some of his overall aims weren't met because I'm not against multiple choice questions per se, but they need to be followed up by reflective tasks as well. And because if I went through and put all the teaching and assessment tools that the tutor was using into this activity, as I did, there wasn't many tools for meeting our overall aims that weren't developing their analytical capacity. Yeah, so I questioned really. I think there were. He failed to meet some of his overall objectives for his students. Case study 2. How am I doing for time? I did once. I may. I've got a little bit of time, perhaps. So this is my second case study. I introduced Dr. Tech Teacher, influenced by departmental expectations, disciplinary expectations, VLE tools. Oh, sorry. A VLE is, you might know it as a learning management system, an LMS, Ben. He wanted to encourage students to plan, focus students on meeting the assessment specifications, so he set up anonymous peer assessments via the workshop. Thank you, Bas, with the workshop tool. And he had the assumption that students need to know what they'll be assessed on understanding the assessment criteria. They will meet their project objectives, that group work's only important for practical reasons, and that the Moodle tools are likely to be pedagogically sound. So I introduced Mr. Q, conscious learner. I had learned that he must learn assessment criteria in order to do well. He can't discuss assessment with peers, but he can anonymously criticise each other's work. And he said things like, I'm not interested in what my peers think. I didn't take any time to leave feedback because my peers wouldn't bother reading it, so therefore there wouldn't be the reflection. And I'm not interested in learning as much as getting a good grade. So again, when I put this data into an activity system, I found that their analytical capacity, because of the practical element of this work, had been developed, but many of the other things weren't. The problem I think they had is that the feedback, well, firstly was there was a checklist of assessment criteria that they had to follow, and that obviously was necessary in order to maintain any sort of reliability or in the grading. There was, and the other problem was that the feedback that they were giving was anonymous and they couldn't respond to it. Now, feedback's always taken better when it's when students are able to respond to it. They're able to say, "Oh, I did this for this reason," or "Okay, so what should I have done?" You know, some sort of response. It gets them to engage in the feedback. But this is particularly true when the feedback's coming from peers, when they don't have necessarily respect for what each other think in any case. Okay, so the analytical capacity was increasing this. Now, I did do one more case study. which really was the one that changed my idea and my research questions. I introduced Professor peer engagement. And she had a position that teaching assessment method influences students' approaches to learning, that learning is improved when it's personal, and learning is improved when communicated in social settings. And her teaching method, she had a dominance of seminars, 2-to-1 over lectures. They relate, and the students were expected to relate the theories that she was presenting to a personal focus. Each one of them were given a personal focus at the very start of the course, and then during the seminars, they were given, they were asked to do group games where they basically related the curriculum content that they were being introduced to their personal focus, and then within a social environment discuss or do something with the knowledge. And her assessment method as well was interesting. She used a portfolio. So the students were expected to submit an essay. They were also expected to do a peer review of each other's essays or draft essays. And that peer review would be submitted into the portfolio. They were expected to give presentations to each other. Therefore, because they had a personal focus, they had an interest in each other's work and how they related it to the curriculum. And they also they were able to submit a course participation record, a module participation record. Also, every time they were engaging in seminars, engaging in the online forum, submitting, writing in their journal, all that kind of data could be submitted into their portfolio and assessed, and therefore valued. It wasn't a waste of time. And this teaching method was very effective, I think, and the kind of I found, I suppose, it's not what I think, it's because I went out and talked to the students. I know it was, and I introduced Mr. Personal Journey, a persona I developed from the people I talked to. He'd learned that his interests matter, that peers can learn from him, that he can learn from peers, and he's responsible for his learning. You like him, Wendy, that's good. I like him too. And he said things like, I was really motivated to shape and develop my area of interest and present it to my peers. The module has changed, the course is changing my personality. It's not only the knowledge I've learned, but it's changed my habits and my ability to learn. And the Professor Peer Engagement had met her overall objectives of developing the student's analytical capacity, criticality, resourcefulness, and inquisitiveness about the curriculum area. And that's because she had understood the bottom line of the activity system, that through using the cohort as a community, by giving the students different roles, sometimes teaching roles, sometimes learner roles, by changing the rules of traditional teaching, she was able to influence learning and students' approaches to learning effectively to meet her overall outcomes. So we'd have lots of Doctor Who's if everyone was taught by Professor Peer Engagement. I'm sure you agree. So I don't know what people think learning is. There's two models put out. It can be thought of as a process of acquiring knowledge, but more recently, academics, especially those using social constructivist models, are understanding it as learning as a process of participating in activities requiring the application of knowledge. So creating, becoming involved in communities of practice, discussing, taking different roles, reflecting. It's not just kind of chunks of knowledge that we're fitting into our heads through memorization tasks. I didn't use the term, Ben, implicit or explicit. I guess I would say knowledge is, I think if you, can you explain? Implicit would be something, explicit is, could you explain those two terms to me? What you mean by that? I can unmute you if you want. I think I'm interested. I think learning's largely implicit, especially long-term learning, in terms of stuff that's transferable and you take with you into your life after graduation. That's the stuff that sticks with you, and is going to be useful in your career later. Explicit knowledge quite often is more about memorization tasks, whether it's procedural activities or if it's reciting facts and stuff like that. That's what I think your question's referring to. So yeah, formative to avoid ones that focus solely on tutor feedback or focus the students on their assessment criteria. It can lead to sort of a narrow conformative development of the students. But there are more exciting teaching and assessment methods, formative assessments, that are an expansive development that develop longer term transferable skills for their students. So what's this mean for Moodle? Getting around to it eventually. Top tips for Moodle use for my, I say 7 years doctoral research. Yeah, okay, more or less. All right. Yeah, 7 years of doctoral research. So multiple choice questions. There is a place for multiple choice questions. They can be useful. They can actually be fun to do. Some people enjoy them. But they are not the be all and end all, especially at graduate or any level really. We need to be able to reflect on our answers. It needs to engage different parts of our brains than simply memorization or reading something or small parts of analysis. So I'm keen on the idea that if you're going to accept multiple choice question tasks, that you would take them to the seminar and discuss your answers with peers. That confidence-based marking, I like confidence-based marking because it puts the students a different thought, sort of engage in different thought processes about how sure they are that their answer is actually correct. I like the idea of them actually creating the multiple choice questions for each other. There are ways. It is a useful and potentially fun tool, but it isn't the be all of learning, the all and end all of learning. So the workshop, I didn't like the workshop, the anonymity. Well, I've kind of given the reasons already that I think that we need to be able to respond to feedback, especially if it's feedback from peers, and the anonymity aspect of the workshop, certainly in the implementation here, that I was doing didn't work, and I didn't see the reflection that the tutor was hoping for within the students I spoke to. I think it needs a social engagement part, and peer review needs a social engagement. And the other thing about it is that if it's going to contribute to the final end of year grades, that can be problematic as well, because students don't like that new division of labour. And I think even with the workshop, the actual VLE tool the Moodle tool does the marking of the students, and that's quite strange situation. So I think peer review is a fantastic teaching method and learning tool, but it's not. But in the implementation of the workshop, you need to do some work in order for it to be truly formative. Journals are great. They merge curriculum, the curriculum that the tutor's trying to get the students to engage with personal interests, very important in learning. Some sort of space for them to do that is really good. It's really good use of an online tool, and also for some sort of
meta-narrative
about what they're writing between the tutor and the student would be a good idea. So I can imagine on one side of the online journal, you've got all the students writing, and on the other side, you've got a little comments from the tutor, which the student can respond to. And the forum, again, good use of an online space, but it needs sponsorship by the tutor. The students need to believe that the tutor is something that the tutors are interested in engaging. The questions need to be open-ended, not asking right or wrong questions. Something requires personal account, something that's not going to make anyone look stupid. Sort of reflective tasks. Yeah, that's my advice for using the forum. And finally, the VLE is the students' online space for their learning. And if we can make it an addictive interface, then we should. I find Facebook an addictive interface, so I want to keep coming back. Twitter is an addictive interface. Google Plus is an addictive interface. And what they have is notifications. When I go on, I know what's changed since the last time. I'm immediately aware. And they tell me stuff that I'm interested in because I've because they are, yeah. So that the Moodle needs to do the same. On the front page, they need to be notified what's changed for them. That particularly important is any social interactions that's happened, like such as forum discussions or any other social tool needs to be posted, and the first thing that the student sees is something changed, and so they want to interact with the system and build more use and build more. You know, so when they contribute, there's kind of obviously like a cumulative effect of other people seeing more use and wanting to use it more. Well, I can't explain that well for some reason. Yeah, and the other thing is to have interesting and useful stuff on there, such as assessment deadlines, feedback that they've got for assessments. That all needs to be notified to the students. It's where Moodle sometimes goes wrong and VLEs, and where they're different from other things that I find more addictive, is you have to drill down into the particular courses in order to find what's changed or what's actually of interest. Finally got there. With 10 minutes to spare. That was my presentation. Sorry if it was a bit stuttery in parts. Thank you. Thanks, Wendy.
Well, I'm just jumping in. Oh, sorry, there was a question from Baz Brand, but I'll just jump in. Keep asking your questions. I'll keep the room open for a while. I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm sorry I missed a part of it, but the kiddie's called, and it sounds really interesting. And it makes me think, though, I'm glad I didn't continue with my PhD because it sounds like a lot of work. So thank you so much. And for those who, Paolo's also on again tomorrow. So if you look at the sessions, then you can have a look then for tomorrow and see you again.
Wendy, I'm not able to do it tomorrow.
Oh, okay then, no worries. Sorry about that.
I did email you, sorry, yeah, I wasn't able to do it on Saturday.
No worries, that's fine. That's cool. So, holidays, of course. Good. Have a wonderful holiday. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks, Wendy. Okay, was your research mostly targeted at universities? It was solely targeted at universities, yes. Although I think learning, it kind of crosses the different educational sectors and outside of educational sectors. So, yeah. So, but it was targeted at universities, yes. How did you define knowledge in your research? Oh, you've got the difficult questions, Ben. How did I define knowledge in my research? Yeah, I think you actually came out of the conversation just after you asked your question about implicit and explicit knowledge. Knowledge for me is something more implicit. It's something that we hold. It's something about us. It's not necessarily what we can. It's the way we interact with knowledge communities and what we've got to offer them. So it is our participation and usefulness within those communities. I think my epistemology shaped my research completely. And I've also got a blog post which you can get to via the front page of this course, and I can also put it up here. Hang on, I will. It's the second one on this blog. There's a second blog down, one before the last one. How do you think my and I don't go into all the kind of difficult stuff. Yes, my own epistemology shaped it completely as it would, but also my approaches to the my research methods, and also the way that I conducted the interviews and stuff. I believe that it's just my position is that I was able to get a better understanding of what was actually going on for the students and the tutors and the interaction between them as a result of my approaches to the research. Ben, you sound like you may have done some research in the past. Have you done some research in the past? If so, what was it on? Have you said before? Any more questions? Thanks everyone for coming.